Cuban Missile Crisis, October 16 to 28, 1962. Although there was tension because of the Cold War, it really began to escalate when the United States discovered the Soviet Union shipping missiles over to communist Cuba. Seeing that the Soviets and Cuba had allied. Fidel Castro, dictator of Cuba, and Nikita Khrushchev, premier of the Soviet Union, allied with each other so that Cuba would receive military, economic, and political assistance from the Soviet Union, and so that the Soviet Union could have close-range missiles pointed at us, just as we did to them in Turkey. Khrushchev took this opportunity because he saw Kennedy as a weak leader and figured that the U.S. wouldn't fire missiles in Turkey if the Soviet Union could do the same to them. This rose a very high threat of nuclear war, something that many feared because no one knew how devastating nuclear war could be. Some thought it could have brought an end to the world. At this time, nuclear war could and must be avoided. Jim Healy, because of the crisis, was called up to active duty at Hanscom Air Force Base in Concord, Massachusetts. He was an airplane mechanic, never in combat. We now shift over to Jim Healy on his role at the base.
I was aircraft mechanic. We had propeller-driven aircrafts that carried cargo. They were C-119s, and the job was that they had to be pre-flighted every day, ready for flight at any time, and that was my job, along with a bunch of other guys that were assigned. It was like 5 of us assigned to each aircraft, was to make sure it was in good shape and ready to go.
Did you feel as if you were contributing in a significant way to the crisis?
No question. Something that was mighty different, but you knew you knew what you signed up for, and you just went there and you just go and do your job. Maybe you didn't think it was a big part, but it was a big part. You know, but everybody working together is what makes it go.
In order to stop the Soviets from delivering more nuclear warheads to Cuba, we created a naval quarantine on Cuba, meaning we did not allow anything to be transported by sea to or from Cuba. If the Soviets attempted to cross the line of quarantine, we would have to attack. They came very close to breaking the quarantine once. They came very close to the line, and we dropped mini-bombs in the water to scare them off and to warn them. The mini-bombs sank and exploded in the water and spooked the submarines that we didn't know were present. One submarine was equipped with a nuke, and needed 2 keys turned to fire. One key ended up being turned, as the submarine thought they were being attacked, but the person who held the second key refused to turn the key. If that nuke was fired, nuclear war certainly would have erupted. This is just one example of how close to nuclear war we were. Tensions were extremely high, and individuals, both citizens and troops, were frightened by the thought of nuclear war. We now shift to Jim Healy on the fear felt at the time.
Well, you could say that the atmosphere on the base was one of concern. I mean, from day to day, you never know if you were going to be part of a crew that was going to have to go down to Florida, because at that time they weren't fooling around, and neither were we.
All the tension eventually led to a 13-day standoff between the Soviets and the United States. In the end, Khrushchev proposed that if we do not invade Cuba, the Soviets would remove its missiles in Cuba. The next day, a message came in that the United States must additionally remove its missiles in Turkey. At first, we were a bit discombobulated, as we did not want to remove our missiles in Turkey. While we were weighing the options, Bobby Kennedy, brother of John F. Kennedy, proposed that we agree publicly to the first message and ignore the second message, pretending we did not receive it. Eventually, Bobby met with a Soviet ambassador, and the 2 countries agreed in secret to remove the missiles in Turkey. This resulted in the conclusion of the standoff. We now shift over to Jim Healy on the feelings he felt at the conclusion of the crisis.
When it was all over and they decided they weren't going to bomb us, or they were going to take the missiles back to Russia, it's a tremendous feeling of relief when you know the danger has now passed.
Now we have Jim Healy on his days with the Air Force.
You know, in the Air Force, I went to aircraft engine school, and they taught us to be stage one of becoming an engine mechanic, and that always came in handy in my life. And even though today I'm 77, your military days are probably some of the happiest days that you had in your life, because there was a lot of nice guys and a lot of good times were had, whether they be in boot camp or in recip engine school. And I would do it again in a heartbeat. And I learned how to make a bed.
Although some could say that the Soviets won the struggle because they got us to remove our missiles in Turkey, both sides won because we were able to avoid nuclear war. It was essential that nuclear war be avoided, and luckily it was. From the Cuban Missile Crisis, future generations have learned that nuclear war can be avoided and at all costs must be avoided.